you care when we get to that point to lead us in our pledge?
I most certainly will. Thank you.
Wonderful. Awesome. So we have Commissioner Edens. Good to see you, sir.
You too.
Davenport. We're missing Commissioner Williams and
Commissioner Wheeler, I can tell you,
Thank you.
he's working on a public safety committee issue right now, and he said he may be just a moment behind time, but he plans to attend.
Okay, and since we have a quorum, we can just call the meeting to order, which is my plan. Although, you know what? One of our first orders of business will be, well, yeah, we have enough that we can kind of get going, and that'll keep us on time. So let's just do it. I'm going to call a meeting to order, and I would like to begin with a moment of silence. I'd ask that we all take a moment to reflect with hope as we prepare to serve the citizens of Washington County. Let us pray. Amen. And so now I will share my flag. And Commissioner Davenport.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To
to the republic
for which it stands,
under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. The next item will be the determination of the essential function of this governing body and approval of the agenda. Those things go hand in hand. Looking at the items we have on our agenda today, making note of any changes or amendments that you'd like to make, and then also considering whether you could agree that these matters are essential business that fall within the governor's order to hold meetings electronically. So I'll just take a motion if there is one that would summarize all of that in one motion. Yes to the agenda. And thank you, Commissioner Edens.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport. And we'll do a roll call vote. Edens?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes.
And I don't see Williams. Williams, are you here? And Jones? Yes. Excellent. Next, would ask that you take a look at our minutes from January and provide any input or changes. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Davenport, with a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Edens seconds. We'll do a roll call vote. Edens?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes.
Williams? Jones? Yes. Great. We'll turn next to our Director of Johnson City Schools. Welcome, Superintendent Barnett. Pleased to have you here today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Just have a brief update. Some of the things that we're working on are the same things you guys that Washington County is probably working on, and everybody around us is the ESSER 2.0 funding. And got a meeting today with our central office staff to everybody's collected information over the last few weeks, and we're going to put that together in a meeting in the boardroom today to try to give our board some direction.
Join the meeting.
Try to give our board some direction about how we can proceed with spending that money. We're excited about the numbers coming down in the region with COVID. Keep an eye on that and be making some if we need to make some adjustments to our plan with our schedule for 7 through 12, we'll do that. But we'll need to, of course, give parents plenty of time to be notified about it. But if everything keeps coming down, especially that rate of positivity, that's a big indicator for school systems. If the positivity rate continues to drop, that's going to be huge for us to look at and hopefully continue to in-person instruction through spring break and through the end of this 9 weeks and then after spring break, and just keep being hopeful that things continue to improve. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions for Dr. Barnett? Do you have a sense of how many percentage of teachers have been vaccinated?
About half. Everybody who we think that we did a survey, and of course with surveys, not everybody completes it. That was the entire staff. The survey went out to everybody. And of those who completed, 81% wanted to receive the vaccine. And over the last month, we feel like that everyone who wanted it has probably had at least the first dose, and many have had the second dose. Yeah, I think I shared last month. I got mine at the VA, and was able to. I'll get my second dose next Wednesday, so I'm excited about that. My wife's a speech therapist, private practice. She's had both already, so. It's just a big positive for all of us, for teachers. I know the CDC director at the federal level said it's not a prerequisite for teachers to have the vaccine for us to open schools, but it gives our teachers and our staff members a lot more peace of mind to have had at least the first, and hopefully both rounds of the shot. So we're excited by that and encouraged by it.
Well, if there are no other, go ahead.
I just said thank you.
Oh, there are no other questions, then thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and fill us in. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, which is Director of Washington County Schools, Dr. Flannery, and I know Brad Hale's here as well, to provide us with any updates they have, as well as this budget amendment that was sent around in advance. So take it away, Dr. Flannery.
Thank you, Commissioner. I hope everybody can hear me. I want to second what my counterpart in Johnson City said. This is our first day this entire school year that we have welcomed 100% of our students back to school. I've spoken to every principal today, and it's happening. I mean, we're having school just like you couldn't tell we've missed anything. Out of 9,400 students and adults, I've got a grand total of 11 positive COVID cases today. So that's pretty good. We do have a few quarantines. Hope that that's kept to a minimum. We don't want to go back to shutting down schools if we can help it. We'd love to stay this way, just right on. So there's that. Down to business. In your agenda packet, there is actually a series of documents that comprise the Washington County Boards of Education request for budget amendment number 1. And I'll let you find that document. There's a one-pager that Brad Hale provided for you.
Would you like me to try to share that on my screen, Dr. Flannery?
I think that'd be great.
Okay, let me try to do that.
Yeah, that one-pager covers everything. Are you having any success? I don't see it, Jody. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna share it right now.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little slow, but I'm doing my best. I realize that's really small, so let me see. If
That is it. Okay.
Yeah.
First, and Brad will go through it line by line, but it's a zero net sum, no new revenue. The first one up there, air filtration project, and the word potential is there. The board is asking permission from the commission to move $500,000 from its fund balance into an appropriation line where the money is accessible. The plan is to put ionization equipment in all of our school building HVAC systems. Now, this is pretty well established science that will kill all virus as it moves through the air return ducts in our school buildings. This happens, I'm told, at least twice per hour, so it should make a real difference in the air quality in our school. We know that it'll take about 800 of these units. We know that it'll take about 60 days to get this done. And even if the coronavirus is in our rearview mirror by then, this will kill any virus, any microbe moving through. So it ought to have a positive effect on flu season, stomach bug season down the road. Now, the reason we say potential is, since this plan came into being, we became aware of the ESSER 2.0 funds. Now that's for us is about $5.3 million, and we know that the money can be applied toward the improvement of air quality. Now we will be submitting a plan to the State Department that includes $600,000 or thereabouts in ESSER 2.0 money for ionization units. So what I'm telling you is the board may not need that $500,000. If not, the board has a plan B. We are currently opening bids, or will soon be opening bids, for the demolition of old Boones Creek Middle School. After a year of trying, it's become painfully apparent that we're not going to be able to sell that property with that old museum of a ramshackle building standing on it. We think, or the architects think, that the demolition of that property and taking it back to grade will be about $350,000. $100,000 fund balance pool for the improvement of air quality in all our schools, or for the demolition of one old unused building out there in Boones Creek. So at this time, Brad Hale, the rest of that sheet is all yours.
I've got one question, if I may, at this time. You talked about the Boones Creek School. I've gotten some phone calls. Obviously, you have some student activity and things going on in that building now. And we don't have all of the outdoor facilities finished, obviously, at the new school. No plans do you see any plans of any demolition on that site during this school year?
Okay, you're talking about student activity. That's at old Boones Creek Elementary.
Yes.
Okay, we did run school-age childcare there until last week. And with the opening of Washington County schools, there was no longer any clientele, so that shut down.
Also, don't we have some sports teams or something working in the middle school?
No.
Oh,
I think maybe they were using the gym for a practice or two, once or twice. And the law enforcement has used that building to train canine dogs.
okay.
But that's.
But when do you see that? When would the earliest you would see demolition on that property?
On the old Boones Creek Middle
Yes.
property, if the board opens bids, it's not tonight. Earliest they'll look at that would be their March meeting. And
Okay.
if they accept a bid and we sign a contract, you got to figure it's 30 days before anybody moves in.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Any other questions on that? And,
Well, what would the timing be on the 2.0 money?
the 2.0, the commissioner told the superintendents that they will they'll look at the plans in the order they came in. I'm taking our plan to the school board tonight. I have set an internal deadline of February the 15th. We'll get it uploaded and sent in. I don't see any reason why. I know that the commissioner has to approve all plans no later than March the 30th. I see no reason why the money would not be available to us by the middle of March, hopefully earlier. And we'll start using the money and drawing it down quickly. There's a lot of items in there. About half of the money is we hope to use for environmental improvements, HVAC improvements, and the rest of it is supports for teachers at various levels, K through 12.
I have a few other questions, but I'd rather hear from others. Okay, do you have a specific vendor that you're working with on the ionization project?
No, we have an architectural firm that wrote the specifications and put bids on the street. So we looked at it every which way we could, and our attorney said, look, you probably ought to just have an architect on this, like any other capital project.
So they just contract out with it.
Yeah, and that way, because nobody here knew enough about it, we decided to use an architect that had in-house engineers, and that way we'd know exactly what we were getting.
And there's no, you're going to put it in all schools, so there's no really awesome way to study the impact of it other than retrospective. You know, we had dozens of kids out last year, and since we put this thing in, we've had less. That's the kind of way that you would know that it was
Just
working.
anecdotal evidence. I know they did it up in Bristol, Virginia, and the superintendent up there said that they put it in one school, and their infection rate went down immediately.
I have
Well,
seen.
do you have,
Go ahead, Commissioner Williams.
you know, we had a presentation of someone that sprayed the surfaces.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I was curious, there was never any more knowledge about that. I know we didn't take action on it.
That's electrostatic spraying. It's a process by which it's not like sprayer out of a normal sprayer. When the spray comes out of the equipment, it has an electrical charge. It therefore seeks out charged surfaces, which is pretty much every surface. We have that equipment in-house. We bought a machine for every school, and that equipment is used every day.
Yeah.
And we also have it used in our buses.
I'll just say, from my knowledge of looking at some of the companies that are experimenting with some of the newer technology that supposedly, you know, really clears the air or purifies the air, there's some really like non-peer reviewed science that's really just industry science, right, to prove their product is really effective. But I have consulted with some folks who have shown me some like peer-reviewed research on the topic of ionizing and other treatments, to including like ultraviolet and other kinds of treatments to air systems, air circulation systems in schools, where there's actually some evidence that it improves academic outcomes just from having cleaner air that you're breathing. And we know that that is also true from the buses when we studied the buses and the impact of taking out the diesel fumes, and seeing a pretty good literature on improved academic scores in kids who are not riding on diesel buses.
We hope that's the experience that we have. We decided to go with ionization as opposed to ultraviolet light because the ionization equipment requires very little maintenance, whereas ultraviolet equipment has to be checked multiple times a year. The bulbs have to be changed out, and it uses a lot more electricity. Ionization units use very little wattage. We don't expect any spike at all in our electrical usage after their installation.
Okay, and did you want to talk through any of these other?
That's on Brad. Brad's ready to to talk about any of those other items on the budget amendment?
Yeah, so can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So a lot of those items are simply grants that we were able to receive, and that was after our budget was completed. So we were just simply adding in the revenue and the expense, so it's a pass-through budget neutral effect. The other items that are not part of grants, we're funding out of our own budget by reallocating funds. And of course, the only exception is $500,000 Dr. Flannery's already talked about, that we want to pull from our fund budget to pull from fund balance, which we do have the fund balance that can handle that this year. So that's pretty much it. Everything else is budget neutral. There's going to be a transfer from our dietary fund for $13,100, which you do have. One of the documents you have is a dietary fund budget, which represents a $13,100 transfer to the general fund. So that's really the high level, gist of it. No new money from the counties being requested. And certainly any questions you all have, I'll be glad to take those.
Questions? And I'm assuming the action we need to take here is a resolution that would approve this budget amendment.
Yeah,
Right.
That's our request, that you send this along to budget in the form of a resolution.
And it would need to be for both budgets, the general fund and the dietary fund, separately. Or it could be the same resolution that just approves both.
Okay. What say you, commissioners?
I make a motion that we have a resolution prepared for the general meeting.
To approve both of those two changes?
To approve both of them. Will it have to go to budget before
Yes.
it goes to the full commission? Or okay, then I guess I make a motion that it goes to budget instead of the full commission.
And is there a way for us to also, or actually, maybe I'll just go ahead. I don't know if we should consider including language, Commissioner Williams, around, if this grant funding comes in, that would cover this cost, or if we just leave that out. I'm not sure. What do you recommend, Allison?
If I'm hearing Mr. Hale and Dr. Flannery, there's no money requested by the county. It's budget neutral. It's just an amendment. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. With $500,000 budgeted to pull from our own fund balance if needed.
So you need then the Director of Accounts and Budgets to show that budget amendment of where those changes would be, and there's no funding from the county. So I think that you won't need to grant if that's the case.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I will second the motion from Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion?
Are we going to do this under one resolution or two? Alice, can we do this under one resolution?
I believe that you can. We've got Mayor Grandy on the call, the chair of the budget committee there. I believe that you can. One is to the general fund and one is to the dietary fund. We would just have the different accounts within there. I would think that it doesn't present a problem, but I would defer to Mayor Grandy, the financial officer.
We'll double check that. The dietary fund is federal money, so it may need to sit off by itself. But we'll however y'all send it forward, we'll make it right before it gets to the commission.
Okay. I just didn't want it to go one way and then for some reason we have to kick it back because we didn't do two or whatever. So that's it.
Well, I hear both requests, and I hear there's a request for a resolution. And to Commissioner Davenport's point, if it does need to be split into two resolutions, we'll handle that from an administrative side of things. But you want action on both items, and we've got the documents here to use as the exhibits, and that will go to budget next Wednesday.
Thank you.
With your vote, with your approval, of course.
it's okay, I'll call this to question. Can I do that as chair? I don't even know.
Yes,
Let's do
yes,
it.
you can.
Okay. Edens,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Wheeler. He may be away from his desk momentarily. Williams,
Yes.
Jones, yes. Excellent. Any other updates or questions for Dr. Flannery? Dr. Flannery, do you have a sense of how many teachers have taken the vaccine? You're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted. Come back.
Sorry, I do that all the time.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe 300 teachers have. I've had my second shot, and it's a very liberating experience to have had your second shot. So, we're encouraging it like crazy, and I can't say enough good things about the health department. They've taken care of Washington County and Johnson City's educators.
They have. Well, thank you for your updates today, and we appreciate you, both of you, being here, and especially appreciate getting a lot of that paperwork early on and having a chance to look at it before the meeting. So thank you for that.
You bet.
All right, we will move on to item number 7. I pulled out one of our items from what usually appears under county attorney, which is the environmental cleanup. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Maybe, hold on a second. Ms. Wilkinson was kind enough to prepare a very nice overview for us. Here it is. And so those of you who attended our workshop on Tuesday have a bit of knowledge, and Commissioner Edens, I know we sent a lot of this by paperwork, so you've probably seen some of this as well.
I have.
Ms. Wilkinson, do you mind if I let you talk through these slides, or how do you want to handle this?
I'm happy to. This will give you a bird's eye view. I know you've really looked at a lot of this. So what I've tried to do is put it back into an order the way I heard you looking at it, which is that right now in front of you, if you were to focus on business, you will see that there are 3 matters poised for funding. And I've broken them out. That this goes back to a November 20th, 2020 appearance in environmental court. We appeared on 8 matters on behalf of the county. 3 of the matters are poised for funding. That means that there's court orders to go onto the property and remedy the situation. 3 of the matters are pending information, further inspection, and 2 of the matters either have been or will be dismissed. So if you scroll down to the next page, it's got I went with the pending and dismissal matters first. So you looked at these in a little more detail. You have one at 546 Charlie Hicks Road, which is a trust property. You have one right behind it, which is another owner awaiting estimates, more information from the general welfare officer. And then another one, which is waiting for estimates and more information from the general welfare officer. But we do have those court orders. And when Bobby France has that additional detail, which would specifically be estimates of what it would take, then we would be able to go onto the property, and that would come back to you first. Otherwise, 2 matters, Robinson and Davis, both subject to dismissal. And that's important for you to know here, because you've been focused on the times when property owners are able to do the work. And so these are property owners who did the work after being cited to court. So they will still have court costs. So that's kind of something for you to kind of drop a mental footnote on. This would be the type of matter that if we could resolve it on the front end, these citizens would be able to potentially use that cost in addressing the actual problem rather than these court costs. And then in front of you today, we have 3 matters that are poised for consideration of funding. Those are Cannon, Hammett Riffle, and Johnson. And then I've got those one after the other in order. This is summarized in the reports I sent to you previously. After giving you that general report that had all of the matters in it, Bobby France was able to work with solid waste and get bids for the container and tipping fees. So you're able to get a better understanding of what the cost would be to the county. So on this first one out on Buttermilk Road, it is property zoned as A1. You can see there that it is a mobile home. The cleanup itself would be an estimate of $750 with the container and tipping fees at $458, which would be an appropriation request of $1,208.48. I've left out the procedural timeline. This is one that actually was brought back in contempt of a prior order of the court. The last time that this property was cleaned up, the property owner actually paid the amounts before there was a lien filed. So even though it is a contempt or was handled as one, there's not an existing lien. But you can see the state of things there. It really is about bush hogging and debris removal and cutting down saplings and overgrowth. The next one, Hammett Riffle, is a property that you can't quite see as much from the street. There are a number of dwellings on the property. When you go up the driveway, you see one, then another, and then a mobile home. There's a considerable amount of debris, overgrowth, and I believe some vehicles. There's an estimate that's been prepared and given to the general welfare officer, which is a $5,000 cost to the county. And solid waste and container and tipping fees would be a little over $2,000, which would be an appropriation request of $7,292.40. Those photographs, I think, highlight that is right before the last hearing. That's a property that has been, I believe, was filed well over a year ago, had a number of continuances, and then COVID. I've met the property owner, at least one of them, and he has made very clear that he lacks the financial and means and the physical capacity to clean up this property himself. He has, though, I think, made some headway. I don't know if it was through friends, family, or hiring someone, but there was a report back to me that this condition was better than it had been. And so the third one that's in front of you is also a property that had previously been at issue for the county. The current appropriation request is $2,716.96. This is just right up on Highway 81 North. It presents a second incident. It's been, I think, on file since 2018, then was published, was noticed by publication. The dates were in your summary memos that were circulated to you and put on the website. There's already a lien on this property that the county has from a prior cleanup. I also gave you in the report the assessed value of the property, which you might wish to consider. I do want to point out that the reports include complaints over the use of a recreational vehicle as a dwelling, as a permanent dwelling, and the cleanup estimates do not include, the way I've read them anyway, do not include removing the tent and the RV, where I believe the property owner resides. So that is my understanding of these estimates, and the appropriation is based on that. I would not recommend actually moving these recreational vehicles in which these citizens are living. So those are the three that would be for your consideration if you wish to fund them going forward. And then just to give you an update, you did have some resolutions that you considered and approved appropriations back in September. Out on Old State Road, Route 34 is a property owner who has been very communicative with this office since receiving notice that we had an approved resolution for the work to go forward in the county to do it. And so that's a $10,160 appropriation. And that property owner has been working with the county, and Bobby France recommended that the deadline be continued. The other one that you see there, Childs and Crow, that work has been done. I've included it there for you to see what was appropriated, what was actually required from the county's side on funding, and then the amount of the lien, which would include court fines, court costs, etc. And liens were filed the day of the hearing. So that is as to number 2. Number 3, the Hunt Estate, and number 4, the Hunt Trust. Likewise, it's just that detail for you that you've already seen, breaking down not only the cost to the county, but also including the amount of the lien. And the cost to the county amounts are consistent with what Mitch Meredith provided to the county. So we're trying to develop a process where all the offices are working together using the same vernacular to describe the cost and what's outside of it, so that you can have an accounting of the cost you're incurring, or what you're looking at, what the county's facing with that. And then you also had another resolution that went forward in September. It had been deferred out of budget and it went forward and then was deferred at the general meeting. And that's item number 5 there, the Broyles property out on Broyles Road. And then you have 2 more that are have court orders, but there's not been estimates. Those go much further back. Those were court ordered in 2019, and that's just waiting more information, inspection or estimates or something for it to come back to you. So that's your big picture and the 3 requests for you to consider if you'd like to fund or move forward on appropriating. And then the other ones I'll just bring back to you at a later date. If the county is not going to take action, we may wish to consider dismissing them and just moving on. And I'll work with the general welfare officer and Mayor Grandy, of course, to see what the county's view is from an operational side of things.
That is so helpful. Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. And so we will need to consider, I guess, 3 separate resolutions to address these 3 properties, appropriating authorization to appropriate funds for the cleanups. And just a couple of other standout items from Tuesday's meeting. One is that we're hoping to address the backlog of all these projects that Ms. Wilkinson has described and are described in the other handouts that we've sent around over the last week by year's end. The other one is that we'd hoped to have this project that's been deferred. Oops, I went too far. Ms. Broyles's property comes back to us in, we think, April. So we were thinking about having at our next meeting, which is the March meeting, updates from Mr. Franz, or if Ms. Broyles would like to come, and just kind of hearing how things are going since we provided another 6-month extension. So we're prepared to make some decisions in our April meeting in a timely manner for that period of deferment. So that is that something, Ms. Wilkinson, that you or maybe perhaps Ms. Stutes could help us with, making sure that Mr. France is prepared to come and provide us with that briefing, and maybe even notifying the property owners or others? How can we make sure that that is communicated?
We can do that. Teresa takes the minutes in your meetings, and so I know that she recorded that from that meeting, and we could forward that, and we're happy to work with Bobby France and be that liaison, because it is a pending matter, from the court. So we will do that and keep you advised if we hear anything.
Great. So now your thoughts and or proposals for handling these 3 appropriations.
Well, I've put them in the order of, I think, cost and ease of reviewing. Mr. Cannon actually did appear in court and had expressed every intention, and I must say, great apology that that the property was in this condition. And I expected that he was going to actually take care of it, but it has not been taken care of. So, I mean, this is really your decision. These are all poised for funding. And so I think it's important that since they've been through court and you've gotten this court order to do this work, we have, for judicial economy, we shouldn't be going to court if we're not ready to take action. And so now is the time, if the county is going to fund these, to do so. And so these amounts are in front of you. And that said, we can continue like we did in the Aloisio matter on 34 to continue to work with the owner if they contact us. Otherwise, I think that you need to either move forward on them or dismiss them, because they have been in the process for some of them over a year, or else they're repeat problems, and they need to be resolved about how you wish, what would be the county's policy on handling repeat offenses. Both Cannon and Johnson do fit that criteria.
Thank you. Do you all want me to share any slides, or can I stop sharing?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to move that we request that the commission fund these three and ask for a resolution to be prepared to go to the commission this month doing that.
Thank you.
Second.
And second from Commissioner Williams. Great. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. We had the property owner come when we went to court, but the property owner was contacted before we went to court. They could have intervened and it never would have went to court. And nothing happened. And then we go to court and you're going to take care of it. Nothing has happened to this point. Am I understanding things correctly? Is that the process and how it went?
You're muted.
I think that's a question for me, and it kind of broke up the process. Would you mind repeating that? I apologize.
Well, the way I understand the process is we have a complaint or something, or so the property owner is notified that there's a problem with your property, and if something's not corrected, we're going to take to court. So they're notified. They can intervene at that point. Nothing happens. Then it did go to court, and the person said, we're going to take care of it. So that's the second time. And nothing happened, right? So it's not like this is all a surprise. I show up at court and why am I here? Oh, I know it's in that bad a shape. People have been given warnings that this is the process. And so it's not a big shock to the
Yes, sir. That's true. Yes.
So yeah, yes. I just wanted to make sure that was the process.
That is the process, and you're considering another process which would have more engagement before the court filing, so that the cost can go to the actual work before the county incurs it. So you're correct as to these, and these go back to, like I said, 2018, 2019. These are very long-standing issues.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler.
I'd also like us to maybe think about our vocabulary a little bit on this. I think we might want to move away from the term backlog. It's not unusual, and it hasn't been in the past, for there to be a number of cases in this process. And it is a process. And all we did was hit pause on the process, and now we're moving forward. I think the term backlog, there are a few circles that I've heard this sort of suggest that we have created some sort of backlog or problem. We're moving 3 of these on forward today. There's only 3 more to go.
Right.
And they're in the process of having to, so I think maybe we just move away from that term so that we don't have this perception that there's some problem. We really have done a great job of refining this process to save the county literally hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think it's really important for the sake of this public meeting to also inform the public that we have had a workshop just a couple days ago and are adding processes, including mediation and HEW, to the front end of these citations and engagement with these property owners, with the hope that we can avoid folks having to go to court and pay court costs and other liabilities. And so I think we're really doing the right thing. And backlog does sound like something that happens when you're not doing your job. So I appreciate that change of terminology. Any other comments or questions? Let me call for the question.
Call for the question.
All right. Roll call vote. Edens?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Jones? Yes. Excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you, Ms. Wilkinson, for hanging in there with us on all these items and helping us stay organized. I appreciate it. Okay, we will move to library report. Mr. Griffin, what do you have for us?
I have one question.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Edens?
While we're on environmental court, I was just had a question about, I know it's been a while. It's been back before the change in officers and everything, but involving environmental court and Bobby France, I know at one time we had something on the table there. Maybe it's a question for the mayor. I don't know, but about his request for an extra employee, a salary increase, and maybe some larger office space. Has that ever been addressed, or was a determination made on any of those?
It's like Mayor may have stepped out. Oh, he's back. Mayor, did you hear that question?
I did not.
My question was there any determination made on the request that was made a while back from Mr. France about an extra employee or a salary increase or maybe more office space? That was the three things that I remembered him making a request for. And I was just wondering if the determination had been made on that.
We have a meeting scheduled Monday to go over and look at office space. I don't think either one of the other two issues have been addressed.
Okay, is that going to be addressed in the future, or is that something we've decided against, or where are we at on that?
No determination. Well, I think one of the issues was if he winds up over there in that office space, then we may be able to work out a shared employee that can be supervised by someone who's in the office, Jerry. Part of the problem is having an employee that, with Mr. France out of the office most of the day, every day, it's difficult for him to supervise somebody. So we were trying to figure out that solution. And if he winds up over there in that space, that may be the answer to some assistance. In the meantime, he's working out of the zoning office, and they have a receptionist there, and she's handling all the incoming calls.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
Hey,
Oh, Commissioner Wheeler? Yeah.
just following up on that for just a second. Mayor, do I recall that, I may be wrong about this, but do I recall that the funding is in place if you get to a point where you can work it out for the part-time or the assistants?
There is funding budgeted for an assistant. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, good.
We did allocate $75,000 to support that department. I appreciate the update. That was a good question, Commissioner Edens, because I had not heard anything on that, so that's good. Okay. Library report.
I want to ask a question.
Commissioner Williams.
All right, I had kind of two components. Is there a way that we can keep these issues from being deferred? I mean, can we limit deferrals on some of these cases and insist on action?
I think that our plan to put a mediation process in the front will certainly help prevent some of that. And then with the one case we have deferred multiple times, we do have a plan in place to bring that to resolution. So my thinking is that we have some starters on preventing deferrals and handling current deferrals. But if other commissioners have other thoughts, I'm open to hearing them. I would say I'm a little concerned about our timeline in this meeting. So just maybe some quick comments.
Just real quickly on the one that, if you're talking about the one the commission deferred, we couldn't do anything about it. That's a commission decision. We would just have to get, there'd have to be 8 votes on the commission for it to move forward. That's all I was going to say on that.
Excellent questions. Thank you all so much for really putting in the work today. I'm almost afraid to say it, but I'm going to go for it. Item 8, library report. Mr. Griffin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
3 times is a charm.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do not have any major issues to bring up today. I'm open to answer any questions if I can.
Any questions? Thank you for being here, Mr. Griffin. Appreciate you. I'm excited to welcome Mr. Hodgen, our new director of the Washington County Health Department, to his very first ever HEW committee meeting. Welcome, sir. I know he has a few updates for us, but I do want to let you know that items related to health education and welfare, which tend to correlate very well with your work, do come through this committee. And having sat here, you've probably figured that out by now, the kinds of things we're talking about in these meetings. And we're really excited to support the work you're doing in the health department, whether you want to come for point of information type stuff, or if you need something done, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You'll always have an item, standing item on the agenda, but I do appreciate hearing if you have more than a few minutes worth, just because, as you can see, we are a busy group. So usually things that we take action on here go by form of resolution onto budget, or perhaps onto the full commission in some order. And that's how the commission body makes decisions that impact perhaps some of the things that you all do. You're kind of a quasi county and state funded entity, but that's what we're about. And we're glad to have you, and tell us what you know.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Jones. I appreciate all that and being invited. I'm learning every day in this job, as you can expect. I think today actually marks 1 month I've been in the seat here. So yes, every day is a new experience, and I'm learning a ton, and it's been a great experience. So I'm happy to be part of this, and just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are with the numbers in Washington County, that kind of thing. And they're still trending downward in our favor. So I hope that makes everybody happy. We're seeing across the board the most recent 7 days as opposed to the previous 7 days. And then if you take that out to 2 weeks at a time, it's all trending downward. So that's nice. Testing is also down in the county. Although the positivity rate of those we are testing is staying steady, at least it's not spiking, it's not going up. So that's all pretty good news, I think. And I know that, everyone's interested in the COVID vaccination, right? So we continue to hold pods daily, Monday through Friday. Most of the time it's out at Freedom Hall. We're seeing hundreds and hundreds of people vaccinated every day. And that's for the foreseeable future, that's what we think we're looking at. The supply of vaccine has become fairly steady, fairly predictable, and we're able to essentially run a pretty good battle with them on a daily basis around here and get the vaccine out to our folks.
Fantastic. Nothing like a new job right in the middle of, at the health department, right in the middle of the pandemic. So we appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. Hodgen today, for anyone here?
I want to ask a question. I read every article I can, in the newspaper or any other place. Is in the health field circle of you physicians, is there any comparison of these various vaccines as to whether Pfizer is more effective than Moderna or others? Do you all have any way to let us know that?
I don't know that I'm going to know anything that you don't already know here, but the numbers that I saw put them within about 0.5% of each other when it comes to their effectiveness. So they're about on par with each other.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, just real quick, and this may not be in your room at all, but we all read about vaccines that could be coming on with Johnson & Johnson and that vaccine. And obviously, at least what's being reported is the percentage of success with Johnson & Johnson versus the other two are not that grand. Any talk about if that comes on, how someone may pick and choose what vaccine they take? And the first two look very, very comparable, but the third one does not. But it still looks really good to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think the biggest benefit for that one coming on board and I probably don't know anything you haven't already read either, is the fact that I think it's supposed to be just the one dose, which would help immensely across the board if we could do this in one dose. But I did see that they were lesser effective with a single dose of that one, so I'm really not sure how that's going to play out. Honestly, I don't know. Everything I know, I've read in the public, newspaper and such as myself. So. I'm not privy to any conversations that are, somehow foretelling of what we would do if they do hit the street with that third vaccine.
Yeah, because the great news is it looks like the studies that's been done, yes, it's less effective. However, the cases going to the hospital and deaths are very low. So, that is, or actually zero or close to it from what their studies are seeing. So from that aspect, it would be better than the flu shot, more effective than that, and would give very, very good step in the right direction as far as getting the numbers across Tennessee, across the country vaccinated.
Sure. Yep. Don't know anything further than what I've seen in the newspaper myself. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that.
How does this vaccine have to be repeated yearly like the flu vaccine, or is it a permanent vaccination? I've never seen anything on that.
That's a good question. I don't know that anybody has, at least not where I'm working, has tackled that issue. I don't know that we know for sure if this is going to be a one-time thing or, as viruses do, we're already seeing. Really don't know what our future looks like when it comes to the vaccine in that respect.
All right, and the second question is, if you've had your second one, when do you become immune? A week, 2 days, or what's exactly expected?
After your second dose is when you can consider yourself to be fully vaccinated and as good as it's going to get.
We will have questions for you, Mr. Hodgins, so thank you for being a good sport and doing your best with all this uncharted territory. We appreciate it.
Of course, glad I can help. Thank you.
Thank you. If it's okay, I'll just move on to number 10 and just ask Ms. Wilkinson if she had any other report for us today.
Do not, unless you have questions.
So if you all would indulge me and hang out with us for an extra 10 minutes or so today, I'd really like to spend just a moment on a point of information presentation by Ms. Wood from the 1st Tennessee Development District. We spent an awful lot of time talking about private properties that need to be cleaned up. Ms. Wood is working on a project that looks at our public lands in Washington County and cleaning them up. And so, and this is land that we all can use for sporting and other things. And so I'm really excited to hear what she has to say, and take it away, Ms. Wood.
Thank you, Jody. So my name is Elena Wood, and I'm the environmental planner over at the 1st Tennessee Development District, where I mainly help our local governments here in Northeast Tennessee with solid waste projects and planning. And I'm here today to talk about Washington County's litter and illegal dumping problem. So one of the things I have to look at through my work with solid waste is if there are any areas that have issues with litter and illegal dumping. And anytime I try to get accurate information from our solid waste directors and public land officials, they don't really have it. They'll know general areas, but they won't know where exactly it's being dumped. Is it a repeated area, and what exactly is being dumped? So Last May, I developed an online tool for the public to report litter and illegal dumping here in Northeast Tennessee, so they can say, pinpoint on a map exactly where it is or give a general location, describe, is it on private property, the side of a road, in the forest, in the water, and what type of waste it is. So I shared that tool with all the solid waste directors, public land officials, environmental organizations, and outdoor recreation groups, as well as publicly on WJHL over the fall. And over 60% of the reports that I've received so far are in Washington County. And nearly 40% of those are on public lands, whether that be on a road right-of-way, in the national forest, or another public property. And the types of waste that are mentioned in these reports vary from fast food bags and cups to household trash to tires. And most recently, we've been seeing a lot of construction debris. And there are several groups in the area that are already trying to clean up these areas, like our Keep Tennessee, Keep America Beautiful affiliates, as well as watershed groups like the Boone Watershed Partnership. But they're struggling to do so due to a lack of support, as well as areas being repeatedly trashed. And a good example of this is the Pinnacle Fire Tower Forest Service Road, which is partially in Washington County, partially within Unicoi County. The Development District, as well as the Northeast Tennessee Economic Partnership, cleaned up part of that area that had hundreds of tires last fall. We spent an entire morning, I think there's about 20 volunteers, and we filled up two 30-yard roll-off dumpsters to the top just with tires. And then we got a report a month later that it was already full of tires again. So things like that, it's not just on Buffalo Mountain, it's really everywhere on public lands. Now, we were lucky that we had a grant from TVA to pay for the cleanup, and we had a lot of volunteers who were really excited to do the cleanup, but other groups aren't so lucky. It costs taxpayers in Tennessee around $15 million annually to clean up litter, and we're not even beginning to clean up everything. That's mainly just roadside litter. And we in the industry know that it's only going to get worse over the next year, because we've seen it get worse since COVID has started, both because people are going outside because it's a socially distanced activity, and because people are producing more trash due to ordering takeout or, Amazon boxes, for example. And it is clear, in my opinion, that it's going to take a lot of people and groups working together in order to keep our public lands clean and help save taxpayer money, because I think we can all agree that money could be used, $15 million could do a lot of other things other than pick up litter. Which is why I'm asking you today to consider a partnership with other public lands, solid waste, and litter prevention stakeholders in the future. Not today. This is just the initial conversation to see if people and groups are interested, in order to try to address and eliminate Washington County's litter and illegal dumping problem. That's about it for today. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sweet. Can you talk a little bit about that partnership? And I think you were talking about like a Washington County, Keep Washington County Beautiful, or what was that whole concept again? I can't remember.
There's a few ways that we could do it. One would be to develop a Keep Washington County Beautiful group, which, if you don't know, Keep Tennessee and Keep America Beautiful are very large, one of the nation's oldest environmental organizations that often are housed within local governments, and their main goal is to do litter prevention and cleanup. Outside of my work at the Development District, I'm the executive director of Keep Jonesboro Beautiful's group, which kind of, it does the litter prevention and cleanup, but we also do a lot of stormwater management work through their MS4 program. So that could be a potential option. So that would be a board being set up of both county employees and members of the public who have a very small budget, and they get a lot of money and funding from the Keep Tennessee Beautiful, which is housed in TDOT. Or I guess it could be a partnership between all of the local governments, the federal government in terms of Forest Service, as well as any other groups that are interested in helping, like the Keep Tennessee Beautiful affiliates, or the Northeast Tennessee Economic Partnership has an environmental stewardship council with a bunch of outdoor groups.
Thank you. Other questions?
Just real briefly, Elena, what seems like this might be an opportunity to take a regional position on it and do it multi-county. And, I mean, obviously, every county is going to have to take responsibility for their own space, but on a larger platform, do you think that might produce a different opportunity for funding?
Absolutely, and I know that litter like this crosses county boundaries all the time. We find litter, I mean, when I'm personally hiking, I'll find litter with people's addresses from different counties than I'm currently hiking in. But yes, I think this could be an opportunity to get some additional funding if we look at it from a regional perspective.
It's a great idea. I'll just say we're out on the Pinnacle Mountain Fire Road a lot. A couple months after Elena's cleanup project, I hiked out there with a friend and took pictures and sent them to the site, the data collection site that she was mentioning. Probably 40 or 50 tires just all in a pile right there off the road. And if anybody feels like going for a drive over the next few days, take a drive up Dry Creek Road. The amount of trash laying on the side of the road right now is absolutely unbelievable. People are dropping entire kitchen trash bags full of trash, and they explode on the side of the road. And I've seen it. It's bad. It's been bad for years, but it seems to be worse. It really does. And this is the time of year when it tends to get especially bad because it's cold and no one's picking it up, and the local scouting troops haven't been out there. But I would be embarrassed if, a visitor from out of town was driving on. That's such a beautiful road, to see how it looks right now, because it's horrible.
I've got to go, but I want to say one thing. I've always felt that perhaps there ought to be more places that citizens can take their trash that, out on Austin. There's just not enough places that are easily accessible to dump stuff.
That's part of the problem for sure, and it costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that Washington County has, I don't think Sullivan County has convenience centers like we have for people to take their trash. And I'm hearing from this report, here we have these convenience centers, but yet our trash problem is worse than our neighbors are.
One of the reasons I started collecting this data on the litter and illegal dump sites is because the state wants to know where counties' problem points are so they can encourage them to open for other convenience centers in those areas. So Washington County only has a few. Greene County, on the other hand, they have 17 convenience centers. Now, they are a much larger county, obviously, than Washington County is, but they don't have a litter problem quite on the scale that Washington County has. At least it's been reported to me.
Well, yes, and the population's not the same either.
Yes.
So it's not completely oranges and oranges, but our mirroring county, Sullivan County, I don't think has convenience centers. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
So they have transfer stations, so it's just one massive convenience center, and they have two in the county.
Okay, so they kind of have less spots than we do, and they have less of a problem in it.
Yes.
So I'm not sure that those two go together.
No, not necessarily. If I had an answer as to why Sullivan and Washington counties litter was so different, I hopefully wouldn't have to be talking to you today.
Hopefully your tool will lend some information there. Is there any sort of action we want to take? I mean, is this something we could maybe follow up on in next month's meeting? Discuss some potential directions. Mayor Grandy, do you want to fill out the regional opportunities, or what should we do?
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at seeing what it looks like on a regional basis and how we might be able to coordinate that. I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that containers, and Ms. Williams commented on that. got some folks in from Orvis and, looking at outdoor activity. And one of the comments they made was the trailheads were sort of trashed up. And the reality was there wasn't a container. So if you look at Laney worked with Jonesboro, all up and down Main Street, there's containers, and you don't see a lot of trash in Jonesboro. So, maybe the solution isn't so complicated. Maybe it's just we get a place to give folks an opportunity to, leave their leftovers. Now, tires and stuff are a different situation. But anyway, just thought, we will happy to work on it on a regional basis. Yes.
Great. Well, I appreciate you being here today. And Ms. Wood, and I hope that we can bring this conversation back to the table in a month or two and just kind of keep in contact and see if there are ways for us to stay engaged with this project. It's really important. It's certainly relevant to the work we do. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to remind everybody that we are trying to recruit businesses for the Work Ready Communities project from Ms. Ryans, and I provided an update like last week. We had recruited, I think, 3 or 4 businesses out of our goal of 10. I know I recruited another one since then, but everybody's assigned to continue to work on that, and hopefully we can get to 10. And Commissioner Davenport, you had recruited somebody too recently, hadn't you?
Yes, we're setting a meeting up. I think we've recruited one. I just got it assigned. Okay, so that was a very soft way of saying your responsibility is to get these folks.
I'll just do my job of keeping the pressure on and, calling out all the awesome people who pull off the simple task of connecting a business owner with Lottie Rice. Simple matter of sending them her email address and having them discuss the process, which is quite simple. But let's keep working on that. And I have no further business. Does anyone else have any thoughts or comments for the good of the order? We're looking at February 20th in the morning for our annual workshop on our objectives. That date. Entertain.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Commissioner Edens seconds. And roll call. Edens?
Yes.
Davenport?
Yes.
Wheeler?
Yes.
We lost Commissioner Williams. Jones? Yes. All right. Y'all have a great day.